G'day guys and welcome to a preview for Canterbury on the 12th of July. Rail comes back to the true from, I think it was an 8 metre position and a 6 metre position before that, which is usually a recipe for a real fence bias. Tough to make ground wide. Fence is usually very good. I think it's a 5 at the moment. You can see today that usually this time of year, Gosford with the true rail usually tends to be a bit smelly, and you don't get that on pace. And then today it was like a summer track the way it played there. It was very difficult to make ground. You really had to be on the inside, and I think judging off that, I know it's a fair way from Gosford to Canterbury, but similar situation with that setup. But this way, normally the fence becomes very fast, and I'd assume that it'll be playing that way tomorrow. Definitely a left-hand advantage to be up there and on the inside, sort of leader behind leader, ideally, and running very well. Hard to come from back and wide in the field. The small fields will help a few horses sort of settle a bit closer than they might have, but it's still going to be difficult to run, I'd imagine. First race of the day, 3-year-old maiden over the 1200, and short price favourite here in Metamorphic. First up from a spell, Chris Wallace second preparation, crossover noseband, winkers on, blinkers off. Has trialled well, has got pace. Does look the leader from possibly one of the stablemates, if not the Ron Quinton horse back in distance, Duchess Padrille. Definitely has trialled up well enough, definitely showed enough at its first preparation. No real knocks on the horse. The only thing is it's 1200, whereas it was 1400 both times last time in. I'm not a big fan of blinkers off, winkers on. It's interesting that it's had a 9 or 12, so it's probably going to be a little bit one-paced, but and $1.75 is very short, but it does look the one to beat. I did like the trials of this horse, Midnight Delight, the stablemate. Interested to see where it
Storm Force and then Charge real elusive. Midnight Delight, our Royal Egyptian
goes. It's out wide, Midnight Delight here. I just thought it's found the line really quite well in its 2 runs. In its 2 trials back, just showing the end of the trials, just to show it doesn't do a lot until late in its trials both times. But it's strong, looks like it's come back well. Second preparation for Chris Waller. I really like that Tamarack form and didn't mind its effort behind Double Ducks. Its first start coming from back in the field on a day that was very difficult to run on. So it's got some nice form. And I don't think Duchess Padrille's hopeless back to 1200. I really think that's in her favour. And she's also the only one of the 3 that look likely that's had the runs under its belt, so it's going to have a fitness edge. Probably not a huge advantage tomorrow over 12. I don't think these 2 Waller horses will be getting tired. The only thing is it might outsprint them. So possibly a really well-timed ride from Tim Clark may give Duchess Padrille a chance. But then that if he sort of holds up and puts a bit of pressure on it, I think he'd probably have to get the 1 out 1 back here somehow or behind leader and pull off a miracle. More likely that Metamorphic will lead, and possibly if Midnight Delight sits outside it, there could be a race in 2 there. So $7.50 Midnight Delight definitely looks the tiny bet. $5 Duchess Padrille seems pretty close to the right price. The other first upper from Chris Waller here in Sepoy Cheaper, who does draw the right alley in 1, only looks a knockout chance for mine. I think it's probably needing further than 1200 metres to compete at its best. So 3 main chances in the first. Midnight Delight definitely looks the value of the 3. Race 2, 2-year-olds, $15.50. Hypnotist comes up 7-4, $2.70 favourite. All too soon down the bottom, $4 second pick. And then there's a number of runners sort of in between. $7.50 Natula Uncle Rodriguez, $8 with Bowman jumping on. Let It Roll, Canaletto, Regal Canyon, Cannon, and Perun, all under 20-1. So it's a pretty tight market. It's not a straightforward race for mine. I thought Hypnotist did a good job from back in the field, first up, beating a horse that I'm leaning towards later in the day. Did a good job down the middle of the track there. Did have a good pace to suit it, but was strong to the line, 12.50. Now has to jump to 15.50, and that's not ideal. Goes up in weight, comes to town obviously, and it's not a gimme race. Drawn well and should hold a position. Obviously set outside the leader over 13.50 its first start. I don't think it'll be leading here. There is a bit of pressure for the front from 3 horses drawn outside it. So if it sort of crosses the 2 inside, it could end up in a position 4th or 5th offence. That's probably the ideal spot for it. Not wanting to dive into 7-4 Hypnotist with a few in this race that look okay, but it's probably I would probably see it shortening rather than drifting, so it's a bit of a funny one. The horse that does look an improver and gets the senior rider is this horse, All Too Soon. Mainly want to show the start here.
Soft 6, rail out 3, first on Civic Stakes Day. And they're off. And
All Too Soon, you see, just that's it here in the David Payne's colours. The Gallant Test colours went up in the air at the start, ended up back last. Had previously shown, this is it drawn the inside here in a 900 metre trial prior to that run. Had shown pretty solid natural pace. So I would imagine from gate 4 tomorrow, it's the horse that can definitely improve. But that is $4.20 is in its price already for mine factored in. Interesting to see Glenn Schofield riding 53.5. That's probably pretty light for him this time of year. So he must have an opinion of the horse to want to ride that light. Uncle Rodriguez is an interesting horse. It definitely had no luck last time, having to work pretty hard early in that same race behind Hawalalai, and All Too Soon ended up running 4th. Beat it home that day. It's a horse that definitely looks hard fit, and with Bowman possibly could end up in an on-pace position and run well. The interesting thing about this race is that most of these horses are in decent form. Hypnotist ran well last start. Canaletto won back in distance. Looked an unsuitable race, bottled up on the inside and did a good job to win, and it was only a week race at Nowra, so this is a big step up, but it does have ability. Let It Roll is the one I probably want to bet around. Tongue Tie goes on, but it's kind of had its chance in some Acton track form, and I'm not really sure how to line that up too well. Stepping from 12.80 to 15.50 here looks a bit tough for it, up in grade. Uncle Rodriguez I touched on. Nathula had its first start over 11.50 behind stablemate Schubert, where they went very slow there and only came home average, so it was a pretty average race overall on paper. Definitely wary of those little slow paces and a horse like it that's come from back in the field, but it draws wide again and jumps 400 metres off a slowly run race. Not easy to do. It's another horse that I'd want to be betting around. Regal Cannon from the Waterhouse Yard is another horse jumping from 11 to 15.50. Inside gate will help it, and it does come out of arguably the strongest race, the Overshare League of Nations Blazer race, where it did run well. It can improve, and at $11 I don't want to knock it. All Too Soon we've talked about in Perun. He's only had the one run, which was a dead set forgive, and jumps from 11 to 15.50. So setup wise, we're talking about Uncle Rodriguez probably having the best setup. It's had the 3 runs, only jumping from 14 to 15.50. The bottom horse, All Too Soon's obviously bred to get further, all too hard out of a good mare in Gallant Tess. Definitely, if things went wrong on debut and it did a good job to finish as close as it did, it's probably the one that can improve, and Hypnotist has got the form on the board with 2 starts for 2 wins. It's a winner, and should get the right run as well. So for me, probably 3, 4 leading chances. Hypnotist, Uncle Rodriguez, Regal Cannon, All Too Soon. Can't find much value in the price of Hypnotist All Too Soon. Regal Cannon, $11 is pretty close to it's. I probably have it, similar to that, as well as Uncle Rodriguez, similar to its price, and it could easily get trapped wide, Uncle Rodriguez, with Bowman not one to really want to saw the horse out, especially over 1550. So the first 100 metres or so is going to be very interesting. It does look a bit of pressure on paper, and the horses that look like leading could be a little bit vulnerable late. So on a track where it's going to be suiting leader fence, it's just an icky race for mine that I'd probably be staying out, to be honest. Race 3. 1250 metre 3-year-olds, benchmark 67. Interesting horses here. The Pharaoh, who draws wide but definitely looks likely to get across. The Fly in the Ointment horse is the Jean Dubois trained Gatan, who has a little bit of speed and looks likely to cross those inside it. And then it's just a matter of whether the Pharaoh sits outside or continues across. And then the Hawks horse Intuary drawn outside it, either applying pressure or dropping in behind. If the Pharaoh got to the front, I think it'll nearly win. That first up run on that really heavy track, chasing a fairly fast horse in memes, just really got to him late there. I like that he's had the 18 days, a little bit more than 2 weeks. See here, he's just caught wide and working a little bit. And they don't look to be going that quickly, but they do run a pretty even tempo here. And he just puts in enough until he just knocks up the last bit and loses quite a bit of ground late. But never shirks his task. Not a bad 6th in a more difficult race than he meets today. Drops from a 77 to a 67, and definitely can measure up to these. Second up, fitter. The top weight in Reach for Heaven was a very strong winner first up in not a gimme race at all. Again, 1200 first up there, put them away quite quickly. Did have a pretty solid tempo up front to help, but hard to knock it there. Draws the right gate to be not too far away. And does look the main danger to the Pharaoh. Intuary is a horse I've got plenty of time for. Just got a feeling that it'll probably be not wound up. Obviously, it's had some issues with only one run in a quite a space of time. So it's had the one run since September last year. In February, put out again and is resuming. Trialled okay. Trialled like it might need a bit of racing. Trialled like it might want a little bit further than 1250. And not sure where it gets to from the gate, and obviously doesn't have the services of Tommy Berry, which is interesting, going with him choosing the top one over it, I would assume. If not, he was already early booked, obviously. And Gatan is an interesting horse. It's won 3 of its last 4 starts. The only time it was beaten was in a pretty solid race. It's been a very good form race. Last time out, it dominated after setting a slow tempo over the 14. It's only ever raced over the 14 its last 5, and now drops back to 1250, which sort of says to me it might be a little bit vulnerable up in grade to be out sprinted by the top 2. But I think it will run an honest race, and then I'm around the others here. So I really do think the $5 is a good price for the Pharaoh. The other horse, that I have not mentioned, is Awoke. It's obviously a classy type. It's been running in Group 2s, Group 1s as a 3-year-old filly. Beaten 1.6 in a Group 2 behind Fox Plays. Good form for this. Not too many starts ago. Last preparation, it ran behind the Pharaoh 14.16 and then another 15.50 before it was tipped out. Obviously didn't come back that well there. Has been trialling okay on the bit. Bowman jumping on is interesting. Just get a feeling it's going to be 3 back the fence and will need a bit of luck. Obviously, if it gets all the breaks in and it's possible to run on, has the class to be beating these. If it's in, it's got wins over Fox Play and like early in his career, it did look like being anything at one stage. So if the money comes for it relentlessly, definitely be scared of it. But I think $5 the Pharaoh's the way to go. I would say Reach for Heaven's at its bottom price at the 290 and might get out of touch. I could possibly save on it, but I'd probably just be rathering having something small on the Pharaoh and just hoping that money doesn't come for a Woke who does look the class runner but has things against. Throwing Gatan in Quinellas with Reach for Heaven, the Pharaoh, Gatan as the top 3 selections, just with the pattern suiting them here. Race 4. Ugly race. My main note here was nothing can win. I thought pace-wise the race sets up really well for Reward for Fashion. Looks like it leads and dominates. Nothing really wants to go near it. Interesting horse in Princess Freya having its first start for Claire Cunningham. 433 days off. In a previous life it was trained by Mick Price and did sit up on pace-ish. Pardon me, from inside gates. It's only 2 starts. Has trialled well. Interesting horse. Going back to that map, Perazada is obviously going to kick up there somewhere, and then you've got horses coming across like Express Point wants to find an on-pace position. Very difficult to find any of these horses for mine. I know Star Reflection's going quite well, and it comes up 6-4 favourite or $2.50 favourite here. It's gone 12, 14, 12 its last 3. It should have been winning. Was it 3 starts? Oh, sorry, no, different horse. It was beaten narrowly at Randwick by a Military Machine. Went strong late, then ran okay at Scone up to the 14. Then last start again closed well over the 12. Heavy tracks 2 of those 3 runs and does lack a bit of pace. Now loses the senior rider. It's the Apprentice on from an inside gate, and I couldn't find it at all at $2.50. Not saying it can't win, but I can't get it anywhere near that price. Banuelo's been well placed 2 of its last 3. It was a bit lucky to win last start with Akasaki doing some funny things there and picked up the pieces. Solid enough form around it, but not really finding it either from 6 gate with a horse that's not overly fast. Not sure where they get to from the run there with the Apprentice on as well. If you'd happen to sit outside the leader, it might have a chance. It's just an ugly race for mine all around, and I really can't get a footing into the race or find anything of any value that I want to back. So I'd just probably rather delete it from the program and go for a steak sandwich while that race was running. Race 5 does look an interesting race. I thought Balmain Boy had his chance last start with conditions to suit. It's hard to run on that day, and he kind of hit the front at the right time and just whacked away. That race is a race that I'm worried about the form. It was pretty strongly run, and those that come out of it I'm not really keen to find here. Pardon me, just got to find something. So that another snappy form. We've got Quick Defence coming out of that race as well. I'm against those 2 here, especially Quick Defence. I'm not sure where it ends up to from the gate, and Balmain Boy's just not showing the dash to probably lead these, and I doubt that he can run past them. I thought that if All in the Reflexes could cross the horses inside it early, and then I would not be surprised if the Imperator Augustus then had a shot for the lead. I thought it was a much better horse when it does lead, and did a pretty solid job last time when it sort of loomed up after not leading in a tougher race. It hasn't won for it. So when it's the 2 victories it ever has had, it's led both times, and if I think it's got the pace to lead these if they desire. Looks the one to beat for mine with All in the Reflexes, the danger on its back. Bastia was obviously a strong effort. First up, we've seen Cosmic Engine come out and fail a bit since then, so it was quite a testing surface. So horses backing up off that, which includes Balmain Boy and Quick Defence, may just struggle a bit. All in the Reflexes does come out of that meeting, but comes out of a different race with a lot slower tempo where it's sat up on the speed. I really starting to warm to Imperator Augustus here around the $5.50 mark, and really think if it does find the front, it will be exceptionally hard to beat. Speed Hero is another horse in the betting that does look really tested. I think it could develop into a sit sprint from one gate, cluttered up. It's going to be very tough to find. So I'm not potting Balmain Boy too much because it will find the right spot, but potting, and it is hard fit, potting Quick Defence to a certain degree, as well as Speed Hero. Basti is a horse that I like the horse and think it'll possibly race up outside the leader. Just worried about it second up, jumping in trip off a tough run first up on a heavy track. Really needs to be a tough horse to bounce off that and out sprint some horses here that have better setups. I think, the two main chances for mine are Imperator Augustus leading with All in the Reflexes coming off its back, and then Bastia and Balmain Boy next picks, but pretty keen on Imperator Augustus. Race 5, race 6. A funny race where I don't really trust that map here. I'd be very surprised if Starcross didn't lead again and lead quite comfortably. Interesting runner that could contest for the lead with the winkers off for the first time is Legerity. Has trialled well enough. They've saved it for this race. I think it was nominated for Saturday for a tougher race, and they've held it back for this. Its trials are okay. Wide Acclaim's an interesting horse that obviously dominated first up over the 11, dropped back to the 1,000 and didn't have a lot of luck there, and went okay in a tougher race. Now drops back to probably its grade here. Drawn 5 is probably just lobs in behind them. It's drawn directly out Starcross, so it probably comes out with it and just waits to see. I would probably Starcross crosses to the fence. Nassac, I would say, takes the sit over this trip. So Sky Limit's interesting, but I don't know if it's really looking to contest a fast run 1100 first up from a decent break for the new stable. As when I say decent break, I'm talking about 46 days, 7-week break. Starcross just really looks to be the one to control here. I do think the two dangers are Legerity and Wide Acclaim, looking to bet around Sky Limit, and Loverboy Charlie from the wide gate out to the 1100. I think it's got a huge task against it. I wasn't overly taken by the trials of Nassac. It looks like it's going to need a run or two and maybe a little bit more ground to find its best. So for me, Starcross gets the lovely run again like it did last start. I know it had a few things in its favour to beat home Yarra Power and Kings of Leon last start, but it is just a fast horse that will appreciate conditions again tomorrow and give them something strong to catch. $4.20 currently with a few places. Looks fair enough. $7 Legerity looks fair enough, and possibly a small saver on a Wide Acclaim at the $6 just to get your money back. But I'd be playing Starcross as the best winner. Tiny result out of Legerity and a chop out for Wide Acclaim in race 6. The last is an interesting race. I know Johnny G's a dual acceptor and taking up quite a bit of market share here. It'll be interesting to see which way they go with him. Pace-wise, we've got a few horses pushing forward from out wide that do look vulnerable late over the 12.50. So horses like Clistra, Boys Day Out, Summit Breath, Bright Future, Rogue Missile Can Be Fitter, Radical Impact, all drawn inside and out. So it does look like there's a pretty good tempo here. The two horses that stand out for me on form are Viceroy. Well, Viceroy stands out, but has to get the 12.50. Hasn't really ever run out. It has been beaten 4.5 over 14 early in its career. Then it got beat 1.2 and a length over 14 at Flemington. So you'd be surprised if it didn't run out a strong 12.50. But it still is a query considering its best form for the 3 starts for Luke Pepper's been over 1,000, 1100. Now goes 6 weeks between runs and up 150 metres. I'm sure Luke's had plenty of work into the horse, and it was did look a tragedy beaten last start over the 11 at Warwick Farm in the race where there was that bad fall. But Gate 1 and a bit of Bowman Magic, it's right in the race. I just thought Tip Top was the one. Last started over raced in the blinkers, getting out to this sort of distance range. Blinkers come off today. It'll bounce into a position from Gate 2 straight outside Viceroy. I thought that might just give it the edge to get the drop on it, and if it was around and circling a couple of these tiring horses and Viceroy struggled to get into the clear at the same time, it might just pinch a break and be tough to beat, and is around the 750 mark early. It and Viceroy did look clearly the two hardest to beat in the last. I'm always scared of Rogue Missile. I know the horse has got plenty of upside. I know it's obviously got some issues and sparingly raced and had quite a long break. It's still 30 days since we've seen it first up. It's an interesting horse that I'd be definitely throwing in things like Quaddies or Cornellas. Vanaloquio is just a bit of a nightmare horse that needs everything right to win races, but pops up when just to annoy you at times. But for me, the last is pretty straightforward with a good little tempo and a hard fit horse. Tip Top with the blinkers off. I think he can show a better turn of foot with the blinkers off here and be difficult to beat. Viceroy gets all the breaks. It's definitely the hardest to beat with all the breaks, but from Gate 1 we'll need a bit of luck, and that 1250 is still a little testing query with 30 days since it was last seen. So not a huge betting meeting by the look of it, but there do look a few little opportunities there hopefully, and just keen to see if that track's playing inside, which is highly likely with that rail going back to the true position. So I'd be very careful to launch into any back markers drawn wide or back markers that you think are going to have to come wide, even though they're not big fields all day. It should be a challenge having to do that, and I'd be leaning towards having some small bets on horses drawn to land in good positions on the pace or on the fence near the speed. I wouldn't be chiming into the others. I think you'll get much better odds tomorrow if you want to back a back marker, that's for sure. Thanks, guys.